July 30th. We are headed north, and this is 0709. But we don't want him today, because Q452 is leaving Winston and he has an SD70MAC with flared radiators in the lead. What I believe to be the last one in service to date. So we're gonna have to go and try and see if we can catch it. It was just after 10 a.m. and after hearing 452 call signal after signal just in front of us, we pull through Vitus Junction and 452 is right there. The leader on today's train is CSX locomotive 4814, what I believe to be the last operational SD70MAC or SD70MAC to date. If y'all didn't know, the SD70MAC with flared radiators is my favorite locomotive type of all time, and unfortunately with CSX's roster changes, the flared SD70MACs are becoming extinct, and I believe this is the last one to be in service today. All of the others are either here, or, well, you get it, in storage, out of service, not to be used again, that I know of anyway, anytime soon. It was just south of Ellerslie that we caught up to the two big engines. Seeing one of these monster EMDs leading a through freight train really touched my heart. I'm gonna stop before I get too poetic, but you know what I mean. After not seeing one of these engines for quite some time, and considering that this is the last one in service that I know of, it was really a sight to see. So, we waste no time getting ahead of the long train pounding north out of Miami. At the south end of Dade City siding, which is this next signal here, the train gets an approach, which tells the crew to be prepared to stop their train at the very next signal, which in this case would be the north end of Dade City siding. He will be stopping here because the dispatcher has told him to. Apparently there are track circuitry issues between the north end of Dade City and Lakuchi. Pulling off at Tuskegee Avenue, just south of the Dade City Heritage Museum, Q452 is right behind, slowing down for the north end of the siding stop, but still right behind. For some of you nitpickers out there, I hate to break it to you, but the majority of this chase will have backlit shots, because the sunny side was not on the chasing side, but we had to take the chasing side because, well, we were chasing. Come on now. Kind of an interesting point about 4814, considering that it may be the last operational flared MAC, was that it was involved in a Coal River derailment. I'm not sure about the year or cause of the derailment, but somehow 4814 ended up right in a river. Obviously, by one point or another it was repaired, and is still riding the rails, but who knows for how much longer. Since 452 was now dragging his train uphill at less than 15 miles per hour, it was easy for us to beat him northward to Oxford Road, still in the middle of Dade City siding, before he would stop at the north end. Once he got to the north end of the siding and talked to the dispatcher, we would learn that the track circuitry issues were occurring between the north end of Dade City siding and the south end of Lakuchi siding. So for every signal in between those 2 points, which would only be about 2, the train would have to manually check to make sure that they showed a passable aspect. The only signal that was red was north end Dade City. The dispatcher would have to talk him past that signal. But the dispatcher could not confirm that the other signals in between there and Lakuchi showed passable aspects. So the train could proceed, but only at a speed where they could stop if signals ahead showed a red or not passable aspect.
Remain going north to the main, switch in motor position. 45229 understands that after stopping we have permission by the red stop signal, north into Dade City. Northbound direction main to main, and switches in motor. Over. That's correct. 1029, tell me I'm wrong. 1029. Okay, that's information. I've got track lights on between Dade City and Lacoochee. Let me know where you pick up your phone and signal. Over.
Because of his track circuitry issues, we left the north end of Dade City just after the locomotives and made it to the south end of Lacoochee way ahead of the train. Like 20 minutes ahead of the train. I don't know if it was actually 20 minutes or not, but we were sitting here a good long while before 452 even peeped from around that corner. Now imagine with me for a moment, we're going to take a little step back in time here. We're going to explore one of the old towns that I'm going to refer to here in a second. This curve that you're looking at right here is Owensboro. Many of y'all have probably seen enough videos on this spot from Danny Harmon, but I'm going to go ahead and speak of it again anyway because my grandmother really loves the town of Trilby. Now imagine right here, the track coming south continued straight, ending up eventually in Zephyr Hills. And the very beginning of the curve down to the south didn't curve at all. In fact, continued going straight through Trilby and eventually to somewhere around Bushnell, Florida. The part of this line that ran from here to Bushnell is still preserved in a walking/biking trail. But eventually, the SCL which ran down to Zephyr Hills and the ACL that ran to Bushnell were both pulled up, turning the S line onto the ACL R line right here. The ACL part of this line being from the beginning of the curve down to Zephyr Hills, and the S line beginning here at Lacoochee and continuing all the way to Callahan. Also a little fun fact, when Trilby still had railroad tracks and a rail yard, it was one of, if not the biggest rail yard in the state of Florida. Also, you never know who you'll see out on the road when rail fanning. I'd say these folks who live around here are pretty friendly.
Nice going, Rail Buff.
Thank you.
Hi.
Strucken with a little bit of positivity, our daydreaming is cut short, as Q452 begrudgingly makes his way around the Owensboro curve to make sure that the south end of Lacoochee's signal showed a passable aspect. And once the crew found out it did, it was all clear from here, so the engineer could throw these locomotives wide open to get this train back up to track speed. Now the chase was truly on. This train was gaining speed and he was gaining speed fast. But leapfrogging him to the Rurdell crossovers was no problem, disregarding the fact that I had under a minute to get set up. But, you know, he's here anyway. And from there to Bushnell, it was chase and pace, so sit back, relax, and maybe enjoy. after hitting Bushnell city limits, it was our time to get ahead of the train, but until we got out of downtown Bushnell, the train was right on our tail all the way through. 10 seconds and a bump in the head by the pedestrian gate is all I have to set up at this last spot, Lake Panasoffkee, for speeding Q452. After chasing a train for 40 plus miles and only seeing the head end, it really makes you appreciate the rest of the train as it whizzes past you at almost 60 miles an hour. So that would end our chase of Q452, and possibly my last catch of my favorite kind of locomotive on the CSX active roster. But we had a little bit left before we'll end this video. We still had to take our drive through Trilby. There's really not a whole lot left to Trilby anymore. The town is all but 1 square mile total. All the town hosts now is a few churches and mostly homes, but definitely some old style homes, if I must say. This was an 1800s town after all. The main Trilby road through town is narrow but not busy, and if you get out a little west of the small town, some of the views are spectacular. This kind of reminds me of when we went to Ohio, minus the hills part, but a lot of the land out here is agricultural and farm based. But still, even in parts of Florida like this, you can find hills and valleys that are stunning to the naked eye. Turning around and heading back east, we cross a bike path which at one time was the ACL main line to Dunellen. It's all but a bike path now, but hey, at least the old railroad line was historically preserved and will live on in people's memories for years and centuries to come. And that would be all for this short little video. Thanks for joining us on this interesting adventure to Lake Panasoffkee and Trilby, towns and railroad power that one day will be a thing of the past. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you next time soon on the Sunshine State Rails.